Hello, good evening, and welcome to the Caithness Amateur Dramatic Society tasting. I'm going to continue in this video with our journey through comparing Diageo Distillers Edition to the core range bottling. So we take one of the classic malts from Diageo's series and compare it to their finished Distillers Editions. And we're going to go to the island of Skye now for the Talisker tasting of this, where we'll have a Talisker 10-year-old at 45.8% and a Talisker Distillers Edition 2021 double matured at 45.8%. After several false starts, Talisker was founded in 1830 by Hugh and Kenneth McCaskill, and it opened at Carbost in 1831 after they acquired the lease of Talisker House from Clan MacLeod. In 1879, it was purchased for £1,810 by a firm which became known as R. Kemp and Co. And it had a production capacity of 700 gallons per week. The principal partner was A. G. Allen, Procurator Fiscal for Elginshire. The other partner was Roderick Kemp, the wine merchant of Elgin. The distillery was rebuilt in 1880 to 1887 and extended in 1900. A new lease for the distillery was negotiated in 1892 with the chief of Clan MacLeod for an annual payment of £23.12 and a 10-gallon cask of best quality Talisker. By 1894, the output was up to 2,000 gallons a week. In 1895, the business was converted into a limited liability company with Thomas Mackenzie as the managing partner, but the shares were not offered to the public. Talisker was acquired by Distillers Company in 1925 and is now, of course, part of Diageo. In 1960, a great disaster struck when the still house burned down. It was rebuilt and reopened in 1962. During 1972, the distillery was renovated and modernised. The malting floors were closed and the stills were changed to steam heating that replaced the old coal heating. During the 1990s and the turn of the millennium, Talisker became more famous and the annual output was increased from 1.5 million litres of alcohol to the present 3.5 million litres. It rose a lot over the last 2 decades due to the high popularity of Talisker. The water for the distillery comes from the Burn and Knockdam Spirag. It has 5 pot stills divided into 2 wash stills with 10,000 litres and 3 spirit stills with around 7,500 litres. The 3 wash stills have a reflux bowl and are rather tall. The line arm is completely horizontal with a 90-degree crank at the end. The 3 smaller spirit stills don't have any reflux bowl or constricting piece. In addition, the stills are rather short and are mainly responsible for the spicy distillery character of Talisker. The alcohol fumes are condensed in the old traditional copper warm tubs. Unfortunately, the malting floors were demolished in 1972. The mash tun is made of stainless steel with a copper lid to reduce the heat dissipation. The warehouses are rather flat and most of the casks are stored only 2 rows high. and they're very close to or exactly next to the Atlantic Ocean. Whiskey from Talisker is very spicy, and it's often described to have a chili catch, and it's most prominent in the main distillery bottling, the Talisker 10-year-old, as we're about to find out. There have been a lot of Taliskers that have been matured in Amoroso sherry casks to make the whiskey a bit milder and sweeter. The whiskey is peated and has a phenol content of 20 to 25 parts per million. Unfortunately, most of the younger whiskies from Talisker are coloured. The new make has light smoke on the nose to start. It's very sweet with sulphur in the background, an oyster brininess, lobster shell with perfume smoke at the end. The palate is very dry, smoky and sulphury, light tar, new leather, soft fruits, and it's salty. The finish is long, smoky and peppery and with sulphur underneath. So, Talisker 10-year-old. I've got just the dregs of a little miniature here and the start of another one. So, Talisker is a classic island whiskey from Skye. This one's aged for a minimum of 10 years in American oak casks. And this member of Diageo'S classic malts has been recognised numerous times for its excellence. I'm going to pour the other one just to get one ready for comparison. So this is the Talisker's Distillers Edition. Again, I have a little sample bottle of this. So Talisker 10-year-old, 45.8%. It will be chill filtered. It's coloured, I think. And you can see it's got a nice tide line there, nice tears. And you immediately hit with a whiff of that saltiness, brininess, minerality. And then the campfire ash. And it is like waking up the morning after a burning campfire, only to find it still smouldering. It's like your clothes after you've attended a bonfire night. There's some earthy tones thrown in as well. But it does open up and more of the sweetness arrives. You get a bit of rosewater, honeysuckle, and sweet herbs. It's a very intriguing nose. And there's a lot happening with Talisker. It's a fresh, fragrant. You get the thick, pungent smoke, but through that you get sweet pear and apple peels with the pinches of maritime salt from kippers, seaweed, whiffs of green apple and sea spray. And it does give you some complexity. There's a new sniff at each time you bring the glass up. Try the mouth. And the ocean influence is immediately apparent on the first sip. It's fascinating how much the distillery's location can play into a whiskey's flavours. There's seaweed, salt, and minerality. But it's quickly washed away by notes of honey and light orchard fruits. Freshly baked bread and sweet cereal malt also show up. It's a bonfire with peat crackling with black pepper, with a touch of brine and dry barley. And that orchard fruit provides a delicate and beautiful balance. It's richly sweet at first, before a wall of smoke blows in. And at the end, the back, flavour takes a turn to pepper and minerals. That gets blended into a handful of ash and thrown into the aftertaste. And it's a long finish. Get bonfire embers, toasted salt, and a crystalline and sugary underlayer. It's surprisingly light, delivering only a moderate warmth. But it does go on and on. The peat and smoke that was present on the nose returns to the forefront on the finish. Freshly cracked pepper and charcoal lingers on the palate with a dry finish that caps off an intriguing pour. I'm going to try 10 drops of water in this. And with water you get some smoke, vanilla, driftwood, salt water and green apple. And with water it opens in new ways. The Talisker becomes almost milky and sweeter, with the pepper and peat flavours becoming more rounded. You get some charred oak, smokiness, pepperiness, a gentle sweet fruit sweetiness, and a kind of iodine as well. And the finish is long and smoky, dry, warm, and welcoming. Talisker 10 is a great pour. It's peaty, but not a peat monster like some of its brethren Ardbeg. And while it's generally the youngest of Talisker's age statement offerings, it's probably the most representative of what Talisker is. So I'm going to cleanse my palate with something a little different tonight. I'm going 20 miles away. I was going to use some chorizo crisps, but now I'm going to use these crisps from Shore, the Scottish Seaweed Company, and these are lightly salted seaweed crisps. So it packs a full handful of freshly harvested Scottish seaweed to make every pack of this. So this is the lightly salted Shore seaweed crisps, and that's what they look like. Yeah, we definitely got the fishy nature of these. So we're going to move on to the Distillers Edition from 2021, which is double matured, 45.8%. This is the original, and this is the Distillers Edition. So you can see it is darker, although colour would have been added to this. But this is really essentially a 10-year-old with a finish. It's been firstly matured in reefed American oak and European oak casks, with a second maturation and finishing in Amoroso seasoned, heavily recharred American oak ends. If you're not familiar with Amoroso, it's a cream sherry, which is made by blending a sweet sherry and a dry sherry together. For example, a sherry maker might take some of their Oloroso, which is dry, raisins and nutty, and mix it with a Pedro Jimenez, sweet, dried fruits, and then put it in a cask to mature for a couple of years. I'm not sure which one Talisker barrels come from, but the sweetening result is readily apparent with this whisky. It's a dark, full-bodied style which normally has notes of dried fruit, caramel and nuts. Oloroso is aged at higher proof to keep flor from forming. Flor is a Talisker yeast that can form during the fermentation and aging. Oloroso has a higher glycerol content that allows it to be perceived as sweeter, even though it's naturally dry. So you can see this has some dark amber colour, a fine beading, and a good viscosity. And it smells of sweet peat. It's a combination of caramel, petrichor and faint smoke, like a distant campfire. It's a pungent nose with clean ozone fresh sea air and beach seaweed backed by richer, smokier notes, sweet malt and sultana sweetness from the cask. It's well combined and harmonious. Let's compare that to the 10-year-old. Much more maritime, a 10-year-old. Much more brine, less sweetness there. Try them out. Starts off with notes of caramel and peat and progresses into a slightly earthy, slightly medicinal mid-palate. And peat is present in flavours of earthiness rather than smoke. It's got an oily, smooth texture. And the taste is smoky and briny, yet sweet, with rich fruit. It's richer fruit than the 10-year-old. And that quickly grows more peppery as wood spiciness takes a clear interest. And it's quite luxurious, like roasted fig and sweet date, firmly backed throughout by peat smoke and sea salt. And there's a smoothness to the chili catch as it goes down. I'll try the other 10-year-old. It's definitely saltier, the other one, and less sweet. The finish is long, powerful, still sweet, but drying as well. The lingering peat smoke and cocoa nibs. A subtle barbecue flavour on the finish, with an astringency that reminds me of lemon essential oil dropped onto the tongue. It's like the feeling of oil rolling across the tongue while both drying it out and fully taking over the flavour profile. More subtle than that, actually, but you get where I'm going. I'll try 5 drops, 10 drops of water in this to balance it up. And then you got sort of oily or peat, dark fruit, malt, saline, coffee, citrus, bit of cinnamon, bits of burnt plastic and brown sugar. And water brings cherry to the front palate and lets the smoke come out in the mid palate, but keeps all the other flavours from before. And water eliminates on the finish that bit of astringency. Talisker is a great introduction to maritime flavours and like peat, and the use of the Amoroso cask in finishing provides a lovely complement and lessens the intensity of which are polarising flavours. I have enjoyed Talisker for years, and their flagship product, annual release and one-off bottlings have all been things that I look forward to. The maritime quality is subdued in the Distillers Edition, making it something that I think is more approachable. However, the character of the whisky has changed, and this one now it's younger than previous Distillers Editions of Talisker. It's a non-age statement, but is essentially the 10-year-old with a finish, and it's fruitier than the 10-year-old. But it has gained more power and smokiness. Some versions of Talisker seem sometimes to me to be a bit thin on the tongue to me. This one certainly doesn't. Even without an indication of age, it's still a nice malt at a reasonable price. The nose is nice. In the mouth, it slacks off a bit compared to the nose before picking up again on the finish. I think the Distillers Edition with the Amoroso finish lifts the 10-year-old, giving it more power and smoke, makes it fruitier, and dials down the maritime influence. If you enjoy the maritime nature of Talisker, and you would certainly enjoy the maritime nature of the shore seaweed crisps, if you enjoy Talisker, great pairing with the Talisker 10-year-old, by the way. If you enjoy the maritime nature of Talisker, I would stick to the 10-year-old for its elemental nature. I think for me, I just prefer the Distillers Edition. Thanks for listening.